it's only right I win. To go down with the greats is deserved. You can't just write them in. We made it through all kind of sin. Born in this cold world, and hip-hop changed my life again. Hip-hop. You think you're winning, but you're in it for the fast prop.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of First Night Out. This is your boy T Knight, and I'm here, man. I told you I'm gonna be dropping these mixtapes type podcasts every week, like I'm Lil Wayne in the 2000s. So, man, just tune in. I'm telling you, just tune in. I'm gonna get y'all right. Y'all get me right. Y'all believe in me, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the first episode. It was well received, and I, can't be no more, grateful that everybody that tuned in just, it was full of laughs, it was full of, wisdom, and I just, just thank God for, the things that He bestowed upon me, and all I can do is just give it out, man. I'm dishing it out. One of the other things too is that I'm well versed in a lot of topics. I have a really good friend of mine that always tell me, like, man, you gotta, and I took it as a as a compliment, but also like it was a dig at like, I mean, he just says, you're a man of 1,000 facts, useless facts. And he said, if I ever get on a game show, I will call you. And so one of the things that I love to talk about is like natural disasters, skyscrapers. I'm a skyscraper enthusiast. I love a lot of topics about sociology, psychology. I love sports. I love everything, just about it. And I can talk about anything. But one of the things that I really want to do is just help people. So this episode is a little bit more somber, information heavy. I'm just here to help people, and just give them information that I think can truly save their life. And like I said in the last episode, being in shape can save your life. And that's not just a physical, but it's also mental too. Just being in shape, just understanding, just learning. Your awareness has to be tip top shape, and that's my mission. My mission is to make sure that me personally have a sharp mind, a sharp body, a sharp awareness. Not only to save my life, but my family life, my wife, people around me. And so, just a couple days ago, and it really touched my heart, that Malcolm Jamal Warner passed away from drowning in Costa Rica. And, just hearing the reports about him and his daughters just down there, just, probably just wanted to get away. Just like most of us, we earn PTO for a reason. And so, just putting yourself in that mindset or mind frame of, when you're on vacation, that's what you do. You just vacate and you just, man, you just want to, just have fun. And, regardless of what happened, the last thing for tourists, especially American tourists, and I can't speak for everybody, or even, Malcolm Jamal Warner, the last thing on my mind is to think about, dangers. You think that when you're on vacation, that there's no danger. You don't want to think about it per se, but you just want to just go and just have fun and just relax and take in the breathtaking views, the locals, the culture, the food, everything. And the last thing in mind is dying on vacation. That's pretty much everybody's worst fear, but we don't think about it. And so even for myself, when I go on vacation, I'm not looking at the local news to see if there's a mass killer, getting ready to kill everybody, or if there's a terrorist attack. That's what the locals are for. That's what people that are there to protect tourists. Costa Rica, I'm pretty sure a lot of their money comes from tourism. And, and I'm pretty sure once they made that statement about Malcolm Jamal Warner, of course, they had to, get out there quickly because they probably didn't expect a well-known celebrity to die while they were there. But they had to make it known that, yeah, they put out the signs, and they expect people to understand these things, but everybody don't know. So when a report came out saying that they had took, surfing lessons early in the day. So when you had that much fun and you don't expect that, nothing can happen. And so, like, you're not looking for lifeguards per se. You're not looking for signs, or even the what is really not really that obvious, rip currents. And so, I just want to touch on that, and I just wanted to play a video. And this episode is, like I said, it's information heavy, and hopefully I can save a life in the midst of this. Because when people found out that Michael Jamal Warner died of drowning, first thing they thought about was he couldn't swim, or something happened, something devious must have happened. But sometimes it's not even the case. He could have, you know, he could have learned how to swim when he was 6, 7 years old. He probably knew how to swim. But when you put yourself in that predicament, or put yourself in that place of, first thing we found out is that he actually saved his daughter. And I think with most people, when you're caught up in that moment, and you're just thinking about your daughter, your son, your family, you pretty much become a hero at that point. So you don't want to further put yourself in danger, but children first. Just like I said in the first episode, you here to protect kids at all costs, no matter what it is, what the circumstances are. You protect kids. And so I'm just going to say that Michael Jamal Warner was a hero to his daughter, for sacrificing his life to save his daughter, even though they were in the rip current. And it doesn't matter what led up to it, or the lack of knowledge, or the misinformation, or the lack thereof. I mean, we don't know. I can't put myself in his shoes, to figure out why he was there, and wrong place, wrong time. But with his tragedy, there could be triumph, and information that we can learn from this tragedy. And so I'm gonna basically share a video about what a rip current is. I think that it's from Australia, but it's a foreign video that lets you know what a rip current is, and I think it's very valuable. I mean, there's a lot of videos about rip currents, but this one I kind of find kind of pretty good, or whatever. And so give me a few seconds. I'm going to play the video real quick.
Rip currents occur on most Australian beaches. They are a strong force and at times can be difficult to see. You might think you know how to spot a rip, but the fact is 70% of people can't. And 2 out of 3 people who think they can spot a rip get it wrong, sometimes with deadly consequences. Here's how a rip forms. When waves break on a beach, they push water towards the shoreline. Once that water reaches the shore, it has to find a way to get back out to sea. So it flows into the deeper channels and away from the shore. These deeper channels are called rip currents, or rips. Here are some examples of rips. They can behave and flow in different ways. They can be found against headlands, Sometimes they flow directly out to sea. They can also flow at an angle. Or the current may circulate back to shore. These are the things to look for: deeper, dark-coloured water, fewer breaking waves, a rippled surface surrounded by smooth waters, anything floating out to sea, or foamy, discoloured, sandy water flowing out beyond the waves. Rips don't always show all of these signs at once. Some rips may only have 1 or 2 signs. Always spend time checking the water before you go in. Don't risk the rip. If the beach is patrolled, then swim between the red and yellow flags. Visit beachsafe.org.au or download the app to find out what you don't know about rip.
So, forgive me. I am working with new technology right now. I've already pre-screened that video. So if it didn't play, excuse me, but if it did, I think it was very good information. But you can always go on YouTube and look up Rip Current. I think there's a lot of valuable information that is on there. Like I said, rest in peace to Malcolm Jamal Warner. Died too soon. Like I said, he was definitely one of those child stars that that broke through. I mean, you didn't hear a lot about him as far as negative. Everything was always positive. Grammy award winning poet, great actor. I think he was going to be one of those, actors that we, rely on and play those, father roles, those grandfather roles. And I think that he will sorely be missed because he was really, really good person. And, I think his daughter would definitely see him as a hero because, she could have also, perished during that moment as well. I just want to kind of also switch over to talk about like the sociology part of it. Um, when he did die, there was like a bunch of people saying, he couldn't swim, or, why do black people can't stay out of water? And I think, why, and also why do we have a fear of water? Um, I mean, I think we all know why, what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just been passed down fear for hundreds of years, when our ancestors were brought over by boat. And, I think just saying that and just passing down the history of it, that we just can't get past this stereotype of we can't swim, we don't know how to swim, water is our worst nightmare, and stuff like that. And sometimes I don't think so. Like, I learned how to swim when I was 6 or 7, and even if I do know how to swim, I mean, a rip current and the way that I've seen it or read stories about how rip currents basically can move at a speed of 8 feet per was it 8 feet per second or something like that, which is very fast. And it said that even the average person can't swim out of a rip current, or you just have to know or understand how to get out of it. Like, you have to swim an angle and swim against the current or swim away from the current, and or sometimes float away and float with the current and get out of that that flow or whatever. I mean, even if you're close to the shore, you can get hit by a feeder current, and that could be powerful as well, even if you're close to the shore. But this is not a fear mongering video. This is an information podcast right now, and like I said, I don't know and understand why we are still fear, there's a fear of water. Because even my grandmother, you could ask her, "Hey, do you want to go on a cruise?" And she'll be like, "Nah, nah, I don't like flying over water. I don't like being in water." And then, she's 81 years old, and you ask her like, "Why are you afraid?" And she really can't tell you why. She doesn't even want to explain why she has a fear of water. My mom is the same way. Can't get on a boat, can't fly over water, can't, do none of these things. They don't know how to swim. Um, and that's the one thing that I feel like is very tragic, that, even though I know how to swim, I mean, yeah, I learned how to swim in calm waters, but I think it's a very necessary tool to have in your bag when you are faced with, death, what I'm saying, learning how to swim, or it just even learning how to stay float, on your back, and with your head above water. The irony of, of a human body is that although we're 70% of, made of water, but our lungs can't intake water. And so it's very, like I said, it's very unfortunate that, a lot of people die from drowning every year. And it could just be as easily as, swimming on an angle just to get out. You could be on the edge of the flow, and you could probably swim 5, 6 feet to the right or left, and you're out of the rip current. And uh and I also read in this research that one of the things too, they don't allow life vests on the beach because it gives people a false sense of security when they do have on life vests. I mean, I never knew that. I thought that was one of the reasons why you do have on life vests in those situations. But I do understand when you give people a false sense of security, they become, more put themselves in more danger. And and then for someone that basically don't know how to swim, yeah, you're definitely putting yourself in more danger. And the person, if you can't swim or catch a cramp, or you're on the verge of drowning and you don't know how to keep your head above water, and you're flailing and stuff and you panicking, um and you also put the other person in danger. And I mean, there's a slew of things that I think, as a human race, not only human race, but more specifically black people, we need to learn all the basics of water and swimming and the ocean, lakes, rivers, whatever it is. We all hear about the tragedies that come out of Lake Lanier. We also have the conspiracy theories, the myths and things like that. But I still feel like we could, just have a more understanding to save our lives. We shouldn't put ourselves in these predicaments, and we shouldn't technically be resting in, saying rest in peace to Malcolm Jamal Warner. And, there's no blame for Malcolm Jamal Warner. He was just on vacation. We all go on vacation. We all just want to relax. And the beach is a, symbolism of, relaxation, fun, and everything. And we want it to continue to be that way. But I just want people to just learn and understand, and that's my true goal in life, is to teach people. And so, like I said, this wasn't a funny episode. This is a very informational. I mean, I know I left out a lot of things, but I think people get the gist of what I want to talk about, and want people to understand. And so, with that, look out for more videos and podcasts from me. I'm going to be uploading at a rapid pace every topic. I'm going to try to tackle, hot topics and things that's just on my cranium. I'm going to get to the sports, but, I think sports is like at the bottom of the totem pole for me. It's very easy to talk about it. and I could talk about it with the best of them. But I just want this podcast to be more than just sports. You know what I'm saying? So this is just another episode of First Night Out, and stay tuned. God bless.
In this game, it's only right I win. To go down with the greats is deserved. You can't just write them in. We made it through all kind of sin. Born in this cold world, and hip-hop changed my life again. Hip-hop. You think you're winning, but you're in it for the fast prize.